When we talk about the Maldives, most people may think of the perfect beach holiday destination. But beyond the five-star resorts, turquoise waters and white sand lies major geopolitical interests. Strategically located in the central Indian Ocean, this nation of nearly 1,200 islands and a little more than 500,000 people sits astride one of the world's busiest shipping routes between east and west. And it's turned into a political battleground between India and China. Since President Ibrahim Mohamed Saleh took office in 2018, he's been viewed as supportive of closer ties with India. New Delhi has been slowly developing its influence on different fronts. But the result of the October 1st presidential election may be about to change that. Opposition leader Mohamed Muizzu came out victorious. He's widely seen as supportive of closer ties with China. He championed an India Out campaign against New Delhi's military presence in the country. As preparations for Muizzu's swearing-in ceremony on November the 17th are underway, Talk to Al Jazeera travels to the Maldives to find out how the regional dynamics will change under his administration and how that may impact the country and its people. In his first exclusive interview with international media, the president-elect of the Maldives, Mohamed Muizzu, talks to Al Jazeera. Mohamed Muizzu, president-elect of the Maldives, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's start with the changing foreign policy of the Maldives. We understand one of your campaign promises has been that Indian troops should leave the Maldives. When will they leave, sir?
Our foreign policy right now doesn't serve our people. We need a foreign policy.
Why is that, sir?
Because we see that our national interests are not being protected. We have a serious doubt about our independence being secured, our sovereignty being in question.
Do you think Indian troops represent a threat to Maldivian sovereignty?
Well, any foreign troops, we don't want it to be here. We see it as a threat, and the people of the Maldives do not want any foreign troops to be in our soils. That's the point. Whether it's Indian or any other country, doesn't matter. At the moment, we have Indian troops here. The president himself has stated this. They're here. Maybe he's mentioning that it's for other purposes, but it doesn't matter for us. We don't want any foreign troops to be here. And that's the main reason, one of the main reasons the public didn't want this government to continue for the next term. So that's one of the main issues that's on our agenda of our foreign policy. And I will make sure that we find a way diplomatically to talk with the Indian government to remove them from our soils as soon as we can.
When will you officially request then Indian troops to leave? Will it be day one of your presidency, November 17th?
Definitely day one. And I've actually met with the Indian High Commissioner a few days ago during this transition period. And in that meeting itself, I have mentioned that we will need this to be our topmost priority. And they have positively noted that, and they have said that they will work together with us to find a way forward with this.
I know I've asked you before, but I'm going to try and put it in a different way. Would you say that you would like to see Indian troops leave the Maldives within a year of you taking office? Is that
definitely, even if it's possible, within the first week? That's how serious for us it is.
Explain to viewers why the presence of Indian troops, you feel, is a threat to Maldivian sovereignty.
We have been a very peaceful country for centuries, and we never had any foreign troops in our soils. We are a very small nation. We do not have a very big military setup, and any foreign troop seen in our soils, we don't feel ourselves secure. So we don't want any foreign troops to be here because of that, and to have how many, we don't know how many of them are here, and we received so many reports about several thousand, several hundreds, and
you don't even know how many Indian troops are in the Maldives.
Because when even the media requests for details, it's censored. They have to go to the Supreme Court to get some information. That's how much it's been censored, and we hope it's really untrue that there are so many of them. We hope it's only one, I don't know, 10, 20 maximum. We hope, because we don't want so many, even when I'm into the actual business of finding out how many of them are here and how to remove them here, we don't want it to be a really big burden.
We know that India has projects going on in the Maldives. They're helping to build a naval harbor for the Maldivian forces, training for Maldivian troops. Will these kinds of initiatives also end?
No, I don't want any development projects to be cancelled or stopped.
But I'm talking about military cooperation. We'll come to the development in a minute, but military cooperation.
Military cooperation it's always been there with different countries. It should be there. Military cooperation with other countries is needed and it's important.
Will you expand your military cooperation with other countries to balance your military cooperation? Countries like China, for example.
See, we're a very small nation. We don't want to be entangled with other, bigger countries. We want to be neutral with that, and we don't want to bring in other military presence or cooperation to be established just to balance with India. That's not our policy.
It's been said that your administration will represent a tilt towards China. How do you see that?
I think that's not the way I'm definitely going to run the country. It's a pro-Maldives policy for me. We will not side with any particular country to please them. It's, the Maldives first. We want our policies to be, our country's national interests to be safely secured. That's my policy. And with that, any country that's going to be, fully respectful of that will be our good friend.
You've also promised while you were campaigning to fix the trade imbalance with India. How do you propose to do that?
Well, I've met with the High Commissioner, as I just mentioned a few days ago, and I highlighted this very important point. More than roughly half of our debt right now is borrowed loans from India. And I've mentioned to him that we need to find a way to move ahead with this, because we don't want our economy to be so tilted at one side as it is now, and they are very open for that.
What are you looking for? A rescheduling of Indian debt?
I think it should be, yes, we need to find a way to refinance them and maybe, I don't know, if possible, to waive off some of the loans, make it as easy as possible for us. And I think, and they've clearly mentioned to me during the meeting, they will find a way forward for us.
But President-elect, looking at it from the outside, one might ask, how will you eject the Indian troops? And at the same time, you'll be asking them for maybe better terms in terms of your loan and your debt obligations to India. Do you think they will have an incentive?
I think they have, and they have clearly mentioned that in the very first meeting I had with the High Commissioner.
Do you think, though, some of the level of Indian investment might decrease? They have a lot of investments in the Maldives, the greater Malay connectivity project. You have lines of credit. Do you think any of that might decrease?
I really don't think they will do that also. And I think they will even be interested in giving more line of credits maybe, and even invest here in the tourism sector or in the other areas of the development. See, we always had a very good relationship with India for many years, and I don't want that to be any different. It's only because of these sovereignty issues we have. And I will definitely be very positive towards the development assistance from India, and I think we will always have that going ahead.
You've been quoted before as saying that you would like to strengthen ties with China. Does that mean you'll at least perhaps even move closer to China? How would you like to strengthen ties?
See, China has been a very close friend of the Maldives, so has almost all the other countries. And we have had a lot of assistance from China recently, except for this governance period. And I think their development assistance has helped us a lot. And I think Chinese policy towards the Maldives and other countries mainly is how it should be, not interfering with the domestic issues, not putting us this big question about how our sovereignty is being put into question. And we want a very good relationship with all the countries. China is a very big country and other countries as well, to make sure that we get the maximum benefit. It should be a mutually beneficial foreign policy. And I think that's the way forward with every country.
We've got to talk about some critical issue related to corruption. When the presidency was last occupied by a candidate of your party, the Progressive Party for the Maldives, the country's ranking in Transparency International's corruption index was at a poor 124th position. Today, as you head towards assuming the presidency, you're at a better position of 85th. What do you say, though, Mr. Muizzu, to those who are worried that progress in fighting corruption might be jeopardized as the Progressive Party heads back into the presidency again?
My policy towards generally for the whole, government is to make it very clean and transparent and accountable. And I think if I'm going to be having this approach towards stopping corruption, I will definitely make sure that every office of the government is addressing it the same way.
Will you bring in specific legislation, for example, as being one of the calls by international organizations, specific legislation to facilitate the recovery of assets and proceeds of crime and corruption? Their criticism, anti-corruption watchdogs, are that it sometimes takes too long to seize assets when corruption has been detected.
Well, this government got 5 years and they haven't recovered almost any lost assets.
Will you change that around?
Definitely, I want to make sure that it's very much, fast-tracked.
How will you move to bring in new laws on that?
If needed, but I think the laws are enough. It's not because of any legislative issues.
They say there's a lack of legal clarity as to the process of asset recovery. You don't see that there's a need for new legislation or regulation to clarify that process of asset recovery?
I don't think it's because of any lack of clarity also. If there's a genuine effort being put in to recover all these lost assets and so on, it could be done easily. And we need that genuine approach. We need the whole apparatus of government to be genuinely towards stopping corruption, and that's my policy, and I will make sure that it happens this time.
Has the Progressive Party of the Maldives learnt from the lessons, the issues, the convictions as well as allegations that were made against the former president Abdullah Amin Abdul Gayoom related to corruption?
Well, I think we will look into all these issues when this government has more issues, and I think everyone, including their own party, NDP members, they are mentioning that in the parliament itself, for example, that they have been, stealing from the public finance as never been before. And for example, during the COVID period, billions of rupiah has been lost, and nobody knows what's happened. The ventilators are supposed to be here, but still it's not here, and we don't know what happened to them. Just one example. So I will make sure that the government is very responsible and look into all this. I mean, we don't want our public finance to be, public money to be misused. And my government will be definitely a clean government, and we will not hold any information from the media or anybody. If any media or any authority want to know anything about what's going in the government, it will be easily available.
But you're also on the record as saying that you will seek to set the former president free. Explain to viewers why someone who is convicted of corruption should be set free, especially if you want to enhance the anti-corruption drive?
Well, see, if that's the topic, I think that issue is different, not completely, as you have mentioned. It's a politically motivated charge that's been put on him, and we see that very clearly from...
You think the conviction was politically motivated?
Yes.
Do you think the judicial system in the Maldives is free and fair then?
Not at the moment. And I will make sure that it's free and fair from day one, and I will definitely put in measures to make sure that it's free and fair.
What measures will you bring in?
Well, one thing is the Judicial Service Commission is very much political. I will change the laws.
Right.
I'll change the law to make it clearly removed from political influence. That's one thing. The administration of judiciary will be clearly removed from Judicial Service Commission. And such other measures will be put in.
So will you agree with the recommendations by the UN Special Rapporteur on the independence of judges, who wrote in February of this year that the Judicial Services Commission, the commission you mentioned, which maybe we should explain for viewers, that's the body that appoints and removes judges. She agrees with you. She said it is politicized, but she says that it should be composed entirely of former judges. It should not have any political figures.
Exactly.
Is that something you will work on?
It should not have any political figures, yes.
And you give a guarantee that you will transform this body?
Of course, yes. And that's what I pledged in the campaign as well.
But then if you believe, sir, the conviction of Yamin Abdul Gayoom was political, wouldn't it be better to work through the judicial system and the evidence to get him released through a judicial process, rather than, as it's been reported, that you requested to have him moved to house arrest?
Now, you see, the judicial process and the laws allows the government, the president, to change where somebody is being kept, whether moving from the jail to house arrest or so on.
Right.
That's something that is allowed in the law. But to release somebody completely, to make him free, to cancel what has been, the verdict, that's, of course, up to the judges.
Okay. Let's talk about the threat of climate change. There's a lot of, as you, I'm sure, are aware, a lot of warnings from international organizations, predictions that by 2050, 80% of the Maldives will be uninhabitable. Do you have a plan to counter that?
Well, it's always been the same story, and we are very...
Do you not buy into those predictions? I think NASA have made them.
Well, to be honest, I don't think they're that much accurate. And it's always been the story 50 years ago as well. And we don't see that sea level rise going up that much. And it's been the same.
Why do you disagree with those predictions? Tell me, what is it that the world is missing in this story?
I think if people come here and see for themselves, they'll see that it's not true, the Maldives, to be that serious. Of course, we take it very seriously, the climate issues. And we need more focus on climate adaptation. And I think our policy has been that way always. And I think when whatever development projects, whether it's a resort development or infrastructure development, we always make sure that we treat our environment very seriously, and we take measures to protect our environment. We don't have enough land. So what we do is to create land, even for resorts. That's the trend in some areas of the country. But whatever we do, we make sure that the corals are protected.
But the facts or the figures that have come out, President, talk about massive coral bleaching has already happened. Even the former president of the Maldives, Mohamed Muizzu, said 90% of the islands have already experienced severe erosion.
Yeah, that's because not what we have been doing, it's because of the global approach to this climate issue.
For sure, but is that not still an existential challenge for the Maldives, or have we got the narrative
wrong? It is a challenge,
wrong?
and it's something the international leaders need to seriously help us with.
Do you think the Maldivian nation, in a sense, is a victim of what the wealthier nations in the world have been doing?
Definitely.
There was a prediction, there was a commitment actually, there was a commitment that by 2030, Maldives will be able to reach zero emissions if the Maldives gets technical and financial support from the world. Are you getting the technical and financial support you need?
Not even close.
So if you're not even close to getting the help you need, is the Maldives still on track for zero emissions by 2030, as officials have previously committed to?
Well, I'll look into that. I don't think that date may be as practical as it has to be. But of course, we need that to be achieved.
What can you do differently from previous administrations to help move the country to that sort of target date?
We will invest more our own funding, government funding, in renewable energy and other adaptive measures. And also we will collaborate with every development agency and international body related to this and find a way to fast track the assistance that we need.
Let's talk about what Maldives means to the world. You've succeeded in the Maldives in becoming a success story of turning a small island nation into a massive global brand. What's been the secret for your success?
I think it's just our natural beauty and the hospitality of the people. It's been really the key. And with the airport being under construction, the expansion of it, which I will do my best to speed up, its completion and its opening will, open a big gate for us to expand the tourism sector.
So there may be further demands on your spending going forward. Let's talk a little bit about the economy if we can. The economy has grown by 5.5% in the first quarter of 2023. Poverty rates have fallen. You're on course for 2.1% poverty rate this year. But at the same time, you've got some challenges. Inflation is rising as the global rise of commodity prices goes up. Debt payments are becoming a strain. Reserves have fallen. What is your plan to manage some of these fiscal pressures?
Definitely the economy is in a very serious condition, and we will, first of all, we will make sure that we don't spend on unnecessary areas that needs to be stopped. And I think...
What are the unnecessary areas? Some international institutions have called for an end to the blanket subsidies. Is that something you're thinking of?
I think they're spending too much on some of the recurrent expenses, too many political appointees and so on and so on. I think they have been borrowing from the central bank for paying the salaries and so on. These kind of things should not happen. We get enough revenue from the tourism and so on, which is enough to manage the day-to-day expenses. And
but you're not thinking of touching subsidies?
Subsidies? No, I don't think we will do that.
Or raising taxes?
We will not raise tax, but we'll increase the tax base. We have many resorts to come into existence there under construction. We will invest more in the fisheries sector. And I think our income can increase a lot by investing more in these two sectors.
When it comes to press freedoms, what do you say to international human rights organizations who say there needs to be reform to the Freedom of Peaceful Assembly Act because it requires people in the Maldives to get a permit first in order to hold protests and rallies? Is that something that you would commit to changing now?
I've already publicly committed to that during the campaign, and I will make sure that it's cancelled. Everybody should be able to express whatever they want within the laws, and the freedom of assembly should be unconditional right, and I will put it in the parliament, and I hope the parliament will accept it.
So, President-elect, what will the Maldives be a symbol of going forward in the future under your leadership?
We want to be, respected, all our neighbors and the whole international community to be our friends, and we want to have a very close relationship with the whole world.
What about the geopolitical struggle? You're in a very strategic position, aren't you? One of the key trading routes, and you've got two major powers, India and China, not very far away from you. Do you feel sometimes like you're caught in a dynamic that you'd prefer not to be part of?
Well, it may be so, but we don't want to be caught in that, and we don't think I don't think we will have any issues with that, because if our policy is pro Maldives and it's only our interest that we put first, I think everybody else will respect that, and we can easily go ahead with all the powers and all the forces that surround us.
President-elect of the Maldives, Mohamed Muizzu, thank you so much for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.